Hello everybody, it's Vanessa with Clemons Crafts, and I'm coming to you today with the beginning of a tutorial series on embossing folders. I do not have my platform yet from my big shot. So I'm going to start the series with the originator, the creator of embossing folders to begin with, which was Provocraft. And their machine was called the Cuttlebug, and I was lucky enough to be gifted this by a dear friend several years ago, and I have kept it, and I wanted to introduce that to some of you that may not have one, but that you have seen their dies and you thought they were really nice, but weren't sure how to use them. So this should be fun. Stick around. Hello everybody, I'm back, and I wanted to show you a couple of panels that have already been embossed. And so today we're just going to go over how you can create these card panels through embossing. And this is of course for beginners. If you have friends that would benefit from this, share it. And I recommend that you save it under a folder like tutorials. I have a tutorials folder for a whole lot of things. So it might be handy to reference later. So what we need is to create these beautiful card panels. Of course, you'll need paper. You will need embossing folders, which Sizzix, Cuttlebug, Doris, there's multiple brands of embossing folders available on the market. You'll also need your cutting pads. Now for this Cuttlebug, these cutting pads are labeled A, B, and C, which is really handy later on when you reference. They have a manual that comes with the Cuttlebug. Very beneficial because it will actually go through with you the different panels or the different pads that you'll need depending on what you're trying to do. So today, of course, we're going to be embossing. Shows you very clearly A, B. And keep in mind, we can also emboss more than just paper. You know, this is nice, but keep in mind, you can also emboss acetate, which, you know, people use for the shaker cards, which I am no good at. Thick chipboard, that's another one that you can emboss. One of the biggest questions when you're starting this, you know, you have your machine, you've got paper, you've got your embossing folder. Well, what size do you need to cut the paper? And that depends on the brand of embossing folder you're using. Now, I do prefer Sizzix. I'm going to bring one out here to show. I do prefer the Sizzix embossing folders. The reason, of course, is my affinity for all things Tim Holtz, but also because the designs on the folder actually go all the way to the edge of the folder. And what I mean by that, let's just open this. I just got this off of Facebook Marketplace. I was really excited to be able to find it. And so I want to show you what I'm talking about to the edge of the folder. So the designs here, if you can see, they go all the way, once you have it right here, all the way to the edge of the embossing folder. Now, the other brands, not so much. They actually cut off. I don't know if you can see, I've got some paper residue there, but you can see this line here. It goes all the way around. And so that's one of the benefits of using the Sizzix folders. So you're always welcome to trim these, of course, to fit a specific design that you have in mind. You may only want half of this. Well, you know, cut away, cut away. There are 5 different types from Sizzix, okay? And I have them here on this paper, which you do need to be able to see. All right, 3D textured impressions, multi-level texture impressions, 3D texture fades, impresslets, and switchlets. So just to start with this briefly, you know, an overview here, 3D textured impressions embossing folder. They add texture and dimension to the background of your card. The multi-level textured impressions embossing folders Sometimes they are interchangeable with the 3D ones as far as size. You will find that the characteristics between those two are very similar. The 3D texture fades by Tim Holtz, they are the deepest and boldest, as they say on their little website, which I have a couple here to show you. This is a 3D embossing folder. As you can see, the difference here is pretty significant as far as weight, the design. I don't know if you can see from the sides. Turn those right there. You can see how much thinner the white one is compared to the 3D. I mean, that 3D, you're going to get some really impressive embossed images with these. Also, the impresslets, those die cut and emboss in one step. Let me find my little impresslets that I have that I just got, and I'm so excited. Okay, these are the 3D impresslets. It's so cute. So I'll show you what one of those looks like. Ta-da! Aren't they cool? So it looks a lot like the 3D ones, which, duh, I guess would be the name 3D, whatever. But this also has a die cut in there, so it die cuts and embosses with just one folder, which I think is really nice. Saves you a whole lot of time. And then switchlets, I don't have any switchlets. The switchlets vary in size, honestly. They have a whole lot of little stockings. They've got snowflakes. It's really cute. So I'm probably actually going to end up looking into getting some of those. We can also use Doris embossing folders the same way. Actually, I've got a Doris. So there's a Doris embossing folder right here. Simple little snowflake design. I know that's kind of hard to see against this background, but it's pretty cute. Anything, you know, translucent. This is a Tim Holtz Alterations 3D die cut. Oops. Embossing folder. I am hung up on die cuts. Anyway, so you can see here, and just to show you the comparison of the thickness, I mean, check that out. I mean, the thickness is very different. So the 3D, you're going to get a very bold impression on your cardstock or chipboard. The impresslets, now these I love. They are embossing and die cutting in one. So this is what the cover of one of those looks like. This is the inside, which resembles the 3D embossing folders. But of course, you have a built-in die cut, which is very nice. And I was playing around with this the other day, and I really love, I could see these becoming my favorite kind of embossing folder. And then the switchlets, I do not have a switchlet, but they are different sizes because they're little shapes. They're like stockings, snowflakes, so cute. And then I'm going to go over, because of the types of die cut, because of the types of embossing folders, these ProvoCraft Cuttlebug embossing folders are 4 by 5.5 inches. And a very thorough video on these differences, I will link it in the description below. It's by Scrapbooking Made Simple. She has a very good video on the differences. So we have the different sizes, which I will also be sending out a little chart to my newsletter subscribers about these size differences. So you have A2, 4 1/4 by 5.5, and you have A6, which is 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then you have the very easy one, A7, which is 5 by 7. Pretty simple, huh? The really neat thing about, let me see which one it is, A2, which is this one, it is really fun and actually the most common size for cards because it is exactly half the size of an 8 by 10. And so if you're creating your own card, you would slice here, you would cut there, and then run your score line here. And so then you can actually get 2 cards out of 1 piece of paper. So it's very, very nice. The other thing, oh, let me close this window because, boy, we're getting the sunshine. It has been dreary all day, so I'm really excited about the sun, but I don't necessarily want it in my video. All right, so the other thing I wanted to show you, handy about these alterations, texture fades, embossing folders. It will show you the size. Here this says A2. They will have that little number there. So you will be able to tell the size of paper that you need to cut to go inside that particular embossing folder. Now we are finally off to emboss because, woo, all this paper and numbers, just, man, it's enough to drive you nuts. Okay, so I am going to start with, of course, our little Cuttlebug. So what we have our platforms, which according to our manual, which I'm going to be using a Cuttlebug folder. So I'm going to keep my instructions on the embossing folders part. And it says here that I need the platform labeled A, which is here. And then it says I'm going to need platform B, which is here. And then my embossing folder and the paper that I need. And you know earlier how I referenced that the size of our paper for the Cuttlebug die cuts is 4 by 5.5. I really hear my notes. Okay, so put it here, and we are going to close this, and then it says that we need our platform B, another B right on top. So it creates a sandwich. It's very, very cool. So we have A, B, folder and paper, B. Now, you just want to emboss and make an image, a card panel that looks like this. You would just run it through your machine and you would be totally done. However, a couple of things I wanted to show you. If you have a brand new embossing folder, like this one has been used, but if it were brand new, a lot of times your paper can tear when it's run through on a brand new folder. So what most crafters recommend is that you take a mister. Let me see if I can find my Tim Holtz mister. Here it is. Okay, so you would take a mist or a distress sprayer and just whoosh, lightly spritz it, and that will keep it from tearing inside the folder when you run it through. Now, the other thing I wanted to recommend, which I did get off one of the tutorials that is linked below, is you can also take a very thick piece of chipboard and lay it in there and run it through with the chipboard several times, and that will also dull any sharp edges that you may have in your embossing folder, that's really cool. So today, instead of just being normal, because you know, and just creating this, I kind of wanted to show you a couple of my very, 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 very favorite ways to make embossed card panels different. And there are so many crafters out there, especially Tim Holtz makers. They do a phenomenal job of all the different ways you can create a distressed background. But this is a very simple one. Let me show you the type of ink that I'm using first. This is Archival ink, and I love Ranger makes, in my opinion, the best crafting. The reason that I really prefer this brand of ink also is because if you use Copic markers, it won't smear. So I really love that. As long as this is dry, it does not move. So to me, it's one of the most amazing little creations here. So I wanted to show you guys one of the special ways. Here, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to just use this fun little circle embossing folder. And what you would do is you would take it and ink on the flat side, not the bumpy side. So your flat side, as you can feel, this is my flat side. And so what I'm wanting to do is I'm going to take my ink pad, and now I guess you could also use an applicator if you'd like, but you're just going to run it. Just kind of get it all in here. Make sure you just kind of cover it really well. I mean, there's a lot of people that would use like an applicator, and that's fine, you know, it's no big deal. I just want to make sure that I have all of my flat side has some ink on it. And I'm just really layering it on there because I want it to really show up. Okay, put your lid back on your ink. And then we're going to take our paper. Very important not to let it wiggle once we lay it in here. Try not to let it wiggle too much. And then we're going to lay it down here. And we remember from our diagram, we have A, B, folder and paper, and then B. And then we're going to just run it through. Oh, let me put this actually here. My little pole for my camera is like in the way. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so nervous. Can you tell? Anyway, all right, so we're going to hold our machine. And we're just going to run it through there. Then we're going to pull this out. There's our, ta-da. We're gonna look at this, you guys. Isn't that amazing? This is one of the funnest and easiest ways to really make a background stand out and pop, you know, just a little bit more. And you could even go in on the edges, and you could distress it a little bit around the edges. And it actually looks like we have some paper here that will need to be trimmed off. So you know the true size for these may not be 4 by 5.5. It may be more like 4 by 5 1/4. But anyway, you can see where you would be able to go in and take that off. So really love that. So we're going to set that to the side. So that's one of the second methods. This is your first, very plain. And then of course the inked background is the second. And then the last little method I wanted to show you guys today is to put ink on the raised, the bumpy side. And then we're going to actually emboss a little bit. So and this is just really fun. So let me get my little heat gun and make sure, always preheat, guys, before, make sure it gets warm there. So what I'm going to do, oh, this is going to be so nice. I have VersaMark Watermark Stamp Pad. Sorry, that ring light is, why do I even have that ring light on, guys? It's like the middle of the day. Let me turn that off so it doesn't waste my battery. Poor little ring light. It's the tiniest little ring light in the world. But anyway, so yeah, VersaMark Watermark Stamp Pad. This is a clear ink, and what it will do, it creates sticky so that our embossing powder can stick to it. It's really cool. This Sizzix, believe it or not, didn't have anything on the side. So I saved this little label so I'd be able to tell you guys. It says that it is biodegradable fine glitter. So, biodegradable fine glitter. We're going to make it stick to our paper. Okay, so I'm going to grab a piece of waxed paper that is folded, and it's very handy for keeping our glitter from going all over the world. So I'm going to take, again, our little embossing folder. And this time, ooh, yes. I just love those designs by Tim Holtz. They just really make me so happy. Okay. The second really fun embossing method that I wanted to show you guys today, again, is with the Cuttlebug. And this time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ink the bumpy part of my embossing folder. I don't know if you can really tell, but this is flat and smooth, and then this is the bumpy side. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to just go over it here. And then take my paper, and I don't know if you guys know, before you emboss, they recommend that you go over it with a powder, and this I got from EK Tools, and it smells just like baby powder. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but a little bit of powder. It helps to prevent cling and keeps your embossing powder from sticking to parts of the card that you don't want to stick. Back to our little formula. So we have ink on our raised edges. Gonna lay my paper down there in my folder. A, B, folder, B. I'm gonna run it through here. Gonna get rid of my machine. This is gorgeous. I'm gonna add some glitter. Then I'm going to heat emboss this. And I'm going to hold it with a pair of tweezers so that I don't burn the poo out of myself. Oh, you guys, look how pretty. I don't know if you can see, but that looks so beautiful. And it's a very nice, subtle shine to your card. And a little bit of it comes off because, you know, glitter will be glitter, but this is beautiful. And so I really like that. So today, we learned 3 different things. Regular, inked background, and then the glitter part. So you have your no ink, ink on the flat side, ink on the raised side. Isn't that cool? There's some of them close up. And I wanted to show you real quick why I love this waxed paper so much, because then it will just pour directly back into your container. And you can just fold this up and toss it in the recycle. Yes, in the recycle can it goes. All right. And that's it for this part 1 of the embossing folders tutorial. I wish I would quit saying embossing. All right, and that's it, part 1 of our embossing folders tutorial, and I'm hoping I will be able to post part 2 next week. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and liking the video, and for all your wonderful messages and everything that I've been getting. I really, really appreciate the support. I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.